Hello and thank you for joining me today. I just wanted to talk very quickly through the proportions of the face. Now the main reason for this was I was watching the Big Painting Challenge, I think that's what it's called. It's on BBC One at 6 o'clock on a Sunday evening at the moment. And last week they were doing portraits. And it was quite a difficult challenge, I thought, for amateur artists because, well, for anybody, because they gave them a cadet and they gave them a veteran. Now it's much easier to paint a veteran than it is a cadet, because with young people you've not got the same contours and lines to be able to draw and get you know, a lot more detail in there. They've got very soft, smooth skin, so it's much more difficult. But the main criticism that the judges had was they weren't observing properly with the proportions, some of them. So we all assume we know faces because we've spent our whole lives looking at faces. We make assumptions instead of properly observing the subject in front of us. So don't make assumptions, keep looking, keep observing, look at yourself in the mirror, look where different parts of your face line up to each other and look at the proportions. So we're doing a very simplified lesson today, really, just a face looking directly at you. Now if the face was looking slightly down, if the chin was tilted downwards, if the chin was tilted up, if you're looking to one side, this is going to alter considerably, and that all comes down to observation. Look at where things line up together when the head's tilted, etc. So just for the purposes of today we're doing one that's straight on. So I'm going to do it now in pen, because I've done it in pencil and I'm aware that that doesn't show up for the camera. So to begin with in pen, I'm not going to do the top of the head because I want to put some hair on in a minute, and so I don't want that lining. But we start with an oval shape. And the top of that oval shape's here. Just put a bit of a guideline, so I'm hoping that this is showing up to the camera. And the eye line, I've drawn a line across in pencil, but the eye line is halfway down. In fact, what I'll do is I'll put the hair in now and then we can see where the top of the head is. Sort of put, I don't know, a bit of a curly hairdo, whatever. So we've got some hair in there, and so we can see now, but obviously the head isn't right at the top of the hair. The top of the head is here and the chin here, and halfway down is the eye line. Now the important measurement to remember here, well, the most important is the fact that the eyes are halfway down. The next important measurement to remember is that the width from here to here should be the same as the width from here to here, and also the same as the width from here to here. So you've got that same measurement 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so eyes are halfway down and they have the same distance apart as the width of the eye. Just put some pupils in to make them look a bit more alive. And some eyelashes. Again, it just makes them look a bit more believable. Now the next measurement to remember is halfway between this eye line and this chin line here is where the nose sits. So we've gone halfway across between there, and that's where the end of your nose is. Now slightly above halfway between the end of your chin and the end of your nose is the midline of your mouth. And look at where it lines up. Look again at yourself in the mirror. Look where the corner of your mouth lines up to your eye. And of course everybody's different. There's going to be exceptions to this rule. There's going to be people with big noses, there's going to be people with very small noses, there's going to be people with very long chins and very narrow noses. So just think about the individual as well whilst you're observing them. Now ears, I'm putting those in without telling you. The ear goes from the top of the eye to the bottom of the nose. So get a ruler or a pencil and just sit it along the top of your ear and see where it comes to. Just going to go over that line a bit heavier so that hairline shows up more to you on the camera. Quite a random shape. And this is just a pit pen and the size is medium, for those of you who are wondering. So this is the Faber-Castell pit pen. And then once you've got those basic shapes, you can then sort of start and refine it. So this is obviously an imaginary person. Just starting to put a bit of shadow in down the sides, which is going to help give us more of a 3D shape to that face. Putting things in like the cheekbones. And now look at your neck and see where your neck comes out, where it joins up. So if you go with your finger down from your eye, corner of your eye, that's more or less where your neck comes to. And this was another criticism. One of the people that was doing the challenge was that the neck was way too short. The neck's much longer than you think. Look at the length of your neck and compare it to the length of your face. Should be similar, that measurement and that measurement. Okay, so we'll let that ink just dry a little minute and then we'll come and put some paint onto this. So basically, I'll just go over that again. For those of you who are beginners, and just to say, you really need to look very carefully. And I should have looked carefully, because can you see what I've done? I've made a big mistake. I've missed something out completely. Doesn't she look better with some eyebrows? Okay, so keep looking. Always look and look again at the shapes and where things line up. So look from the corner of the eye and see where that lines up. Look from the corner of the mouth, where does that line up? Where does it line up along the face? Where does it line up in relation to anything else that you may have further down in your painting? Okay, so I'll leave that to dry a sec and then we'll come and put some paint on it. Okay, so I've rubbed out all those guidelines and we're now going to put a little bit of colour on. I'm going to use these, well, let me show you, these Schminky Academy watercolours that I bought a little while back. I did do a review on these. If you haven't seen them, I'll put the link to that up here. So we've only got a few colours, so I'm just going to work with what we've got in the palette to just show you how you can make a few easy skin tones. So I'll start at the top of the picture. It'll be the easiest way to do it with her hair. And what colour hair should she have? What's this? I did do a colour chart of these. I'll just have to have a quick look at it and see what colour it is. So this is a sepia. Sorry about that. It's on the wall behind me, the colour chart for this these paints. So I'm just going to put that on as it's come off the palette, this sepia for her hair. And because this paper won't take a lot of paint, because it's the just the mixed media pad, we'll do this sort of wet on dry. We'll do a little bit at a time and let it dry and then come back and do some more. Okay, and whilst that's drying, we'll do the skin tone, but I'll just pop a little bit of that colour on the eyebrows. So for the skin tone, I use some yellow. I'm just trying to think. I'm actually going to make her quite bright. Let's use some of the brighter yellow. What I'll do is I'll pop these colours below in the notes as well. And let's add a touch of red to that. So we've got like a little bit of a peachy colour. And we can test that on the side of the paper there. So we need quite a bit more of that made up actually. I'm used to working with artist quality watercolours with my Winsor & Newton ones. And I realise now I need a lot more pigment with these student quality ones. Too much red. And we're just going to put this all over to begin with. Usually for skin tones I use something like an ochre, more of one of the earth colours. I just thought on this nice white pad with this mixed media paper would keep it nice and fresh and some nice bright colours. So using that a brighter yellow than I would normally. But try out all your different yellows that you have on your palette, whatever watercolours you have. Try out all your different yellows with all the reds that you've got. Try each yellow with a touch of each red, and always have more yellow than red, because your yellow isn't anywhere near as strong a pigment as your red, and if you put too much red in, you're going to end up looking like they've spent too much time on the sunbed. I'll go right over the lips because we can come back later and put more colour into the lips. And we'll leave this to dry before we put any more colour on it. And now we need to put some shadow in. So to put the shadow in, I'm going to use some blue with a tiny touch of that red that we just used in the skim. It's the same red. More blue than red. And plenty of water. And we'll start and think about where some shadows might be. So on the ears, down the side of the face, under the mouth, between the mouth and the chin, under the hairline. So imagine perhaps the light's coming from above. Inside the under the brow because the brow bone is casting a shadow into this part of the eye. So go over some of the eye as well. Don't leave the whole eye white because that's going to be in shadow. Perhaps more down one side of the nose than the other if the light's coming slightly from one side. So let's say the light's coming more from this side. She's going to be more in shadow down this side of the face. And can you see by adding the shadow, I'm going to leave those lines, you know where we've got some hard edges going on because of the paper, because this paper doesn't take a lot of water and because it's a student quality paint, which I'm not used to working with. We're getting more lines because it's drying out quite quickly. I'm not going to worry about it, I'm just going to leave them there because all I'm concentrating on really is the form and showing you about the colours and how to build that form up with the colours and the shadows. So I'm not going to worry too much about the lines in the paint. So I'm just putting a bit of extra colour on the hair, it just wanted to be a bit darker. And again, I'm going to leave that to dry. I'm going to just add a touch more red. Oh, actually that's too much. Let's get some more yellow. Just to warm this skin up a bit. I feel like she's a bit cool at the moment. So I think again we'll probably go over most of her with this just to, like I say, make her warmer. Those colours, those shadows are still underneath there. They're still going to come through. Now whilst that's wet, just stop and think about where it's going to be lightest. So the light hits the top of your brow. So with a dry brush, just take off where the light's going to be hitting. It also hits the centre of your forehead. It's going to hit the top of your cheekbone. And it's going to hit down the centre of your nose. So look at your own face and have a look where it's lightest and where it's darkest and where the light is resting. It's also going to be resting on your mouth, top of your mouth, but we'll leave that. Put some lipstick on her in a minute. Okay, so you can see how he's starting to build up a bit more shape in that face. Again, we'll leave that to dry. Okay, so I'm going to get a smaller brush now and do something with her eyes. I'm just trying to decide whether she wants blue eyes or brown eyes, and I think we'll give her some blue eyes. So very, very simplified. Wouldn't normally be quite so simple. You're not very often going to get somebody looking straight at you like this in a photograph that you're working from, or if you're working from life. Very unlikely that you're not going to have the face slightly to one side. Perhaps lift a bit of that out, that's perhaps a bit too dark. Okay, and we'll pop her some lipstick on. Now that's a bit too bright, so just to calm it down a bit, I'll pop a bit of green in. Green's opposite red on the colour wheel, so if you feel it's a bit harsh, your red, if you just pop a touch of green in, that's just going to make it tone down a little bit. We'll just take a touch out, say that that's where the light's hit him. Now with this same colour again, and perhaps with a touch of red, just think about where she's going to be most red. So on the top of her ears, you often catch the sun on the top of your ears. You often catch the sun on your brow, on the top of your cheekbone, and on the end of your nose. So look at your own face again in the mirror and just see where you're more red. And this goes back to what I was saying about the cadets being painted very differently to the veterans. You're going to have a lot more changes in colour in somebody who's older. So the cadet's skin will be much more even colour, you'd have much less difference. I'm just going to change my brush, that brush is a bit soft for this paper. So probably with the older veterans you'd have a lot more blue, perhaps more red as well. Trying to get a little bit of that out. So despite the fact that I've been using student quality paints and using this mixed media paper, I'm quite happy with how she's turned out really, and that's because we got the proportions right to begin with. So it's the drawing that's the important thing. Get your proportions right before you start. I'm just going to get a little bit more blue. I mean, she could have blue eyeshadow on, couldn't she? But we weren't just quite dark enough underneath this brow bone. Just blend that in. Maybe a bit underneath as well. And you could carry on building up the tones and the shadows. Again, put more blue on. I'm not overly happy with the colour of her hair, it's a bit boring to be honest. Just make one or two perhaps shapes that maybe she's got a bit of curly hair, I don't know. It just seems a bit boring. So you'll see that I just put an extra layer of skin tone over the top, more of the warm colours. I just felt it was getting a bit too blue, and it just sort of brought the whole thing back together again. Now, one thing I've got in the habit of, and I don't know if it's a good habit or not, is if I lose some of my highlights, I put them on again with some chalk. Now, the only thing about using chalk is you can't go back over it with anything else. So once it's on, so don't overdo it. But I actually quite like just working with a little bit of chalk, so I'll just pop a few highlights on there. Like I said, the sun, the light, the sun, it depends if you're outside or inside, but the sun's going to hit your brow bone, it's going to hit your cheekbone, and it's not as easy when you're doing it out of your imagination, but just think about it, where the sun's going to hit. You can blend it in a little bit. Of course, this is completely dry now, and it usually hits down the centre of your head. So think about where the bone is nearest to the surface of the skin, because that's where the light tends to catch on the lip as well. Okay, so you can see how that you could build up those tones more and more, adding extra layers of paint, letting the paint dry in between, adding all those different skin tones, more of the shadow colours. So with skin, you can you can build up the shadows either using the same skin tones on top of each other just to keep going darker and darker, and you can add different colours. You could use a mauve, something like that. It's quite nice sometimes. So just play about with your colours. If you want it to be more natural colours, use your earth tones, your ochres and things, rather than the cadmium that I've used. But I actually quite like it. She's nice and bright and colourful, and she really stands out from the page. So the main thing was the drawing. So basically, if you've got a decent drawing, your painting can be the fun part, adding the paint. So this is what they were saying the other day on the programme that I was talking about earlier. Get those proportions right to begin with. So have a go at doing a face straight on that's completely out of your head. Start with your oval, halfway down for your eyes, halfway down for the base of your nose, halfway again for your lips, or just above half. And look at where things line up together. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. Let me know how you get on with that in the comments below, and if you'd like me to go through any more tutorials like this, if there's anything particular that you want to ask about. And I'll try and remember and put those specific colours in the description below as well. Okay, so thanks for watching, and bye for now.